Welcome to episode 340 of the Game Deflators podcast. My name's John, and I'm joined by Ryan.
Hey, everybody, here at the Game Deflators podcast, we like to talk about games we've recently picked up, games we're currently playing, and sometimes we talk to cool people, like in this episode of the Game Deflators podcast.
So this week we're joined by Killian Davies. He is the sole proprietor of AZ Stolas, an independent publisher of D&D content and its accompanying merchandise. He travels from convention to convention across the United States as a cosplayer, public speaker, and most recently a vendor of his TTRPG wares. Killian, thanks for coming on.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Ooh, we're happy to have you.
So that's the bulk of our discussion. We'll get into our pickups and such in a moment. But of course, you can find the Game Deflators on thegamedeflators.com. You can find us on social media at Game Deflators on X, at The Game Deflators on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, and Blue Sky. We're also on YouTube. Hit the little bell so you know when we're on. We're on podcast apps. Go ahead, like, subscribe, comment, 5-star review, all that good stuff that comes with it. And Killian, where can we find you?
Primarily, you can find me on Instagram at AZ Stolas. You can find me on TikTok, X, Blue Sky at Arizona Stolas. But also my Etsy shop is Grimoire Goods Shop. And yeah, that's pretty much where my primary resources are found.
Awesome. All right, Ryan, shall we get into our recent pickups?
Yeah, kick it off.
All right. And this is for folks chiming in, this is a predominantly Dungeons and Dragons themed episode that we'll obviously be discussing. So, all right. First and only pickup I'm going to share with you today is going to be Shin-Chan. I got the next one, Ryan. I enjoyed that first game so much. Collecting butterflies and flowers and bouncing my ass up and down, going down streets and flirting with women that I had to pick up the next one. That's so Killian, I imagine you're familiar with Shin-Chan series as a anime fan and such.
You know, I have heard of it, but I have not played it. I do enjoy anime, but I've only watched a few series. So what can you give me a little bit of context? Because I have heard this. I have Switch friends that love this game.
It always reminds me of like Japanese South Park. It's just like this like very inappropriate like kindergartner wandering around shaking his butt and getting into shenanigans with his weird little friends.
Okay.
So the voice actor for Shin is actually Laura Bailey. So she
talent.
Yeah. So that Chuck Huber plays his dad. I'm trying to remember some of the other voices, but it's just chaos. I mean, it's like Ryan said, it's basically South Park in Japan, and he is like, there's an entire episode I think where he's trying to call out a pedophile, and like the guy's trying to get him back to his house, like with balloons and candy. So like that's kind of what you can expect.
It's a wild one.
Okay.
Yeah, they have the anime is like one of the longest running animes in Japan. In the US, I think it was only 3 to 5 seasons in the US.
Mm-hmm.
There's in Japan 23 movies. It seems like once a year they release a movie. So it's about 30 years almost of Shin-Chan over there.
It's like a big deal. John loves it.
Oh yeah, it's phenomenal.
He played the last game.
The game is all subbed.
Stellar reviews on it.
Yeah, the game's all subbed, and it's great.
Well,
so
John,
the last one
is that going to be backwards compatible for you when that Switch 2 comes out?
It should be, I imagine. But
there's got to be like a long history of Shin-Chan games for like older consoles, John. You need to start picking up like the PS1 games and stuff.
There's actually not. I don't
really?
think there is. Yeah, I think there's only a handful at most. It is on Steam, and it is on like the PS5 store. This is a physical copy though, so
very nice.
Yeah, so very excited about that one. But before I start playing that, and it'll be a while before I play it, I just had to have a physical copy. I am still playing Fantasia Neo Dimensions. So Ryan, I'm level 44 in that. I imagine I'll be level 60 at some point, which is what you need to beat the game. I did learn recently.
You're most of the way there.
I'm about 27 hours in. It's about a 30 to 35 hour game. It says.
Okay, yeah. So you're pretty close.
Well, I think I'm going to end up at about 40 hours when it's all said and done. I do need to level up. I was in a particular boss battle the other day where it just wrecked me. So not much I can do there other than like continue to level up and, stream it on our
grind
YouTube.
It out.
Yeah. And then D&D campaigns. So speaking of wrecking, absolutely demolished you guys last night for the most part in D&D. So Strixhaven, we pulled up into the Furigo repository where they had a duel with some of their on-site or on-campus nemesis of Virian Blackwood and his group. and basically our Draco Malfoy of the school. And so, yeah, the group came together to do some dueling. People started collapsing of headaches and such, and from some mystery. You guys don't know what this is, and Oni comes out of nowhere and just starts wrecking you guys, and blink dogs start popping out and wrecking you guys.
And we couldn't hit them at all.
Yeah,
it was like it was one of those sessions where the whole session was just this fight. Like, we knew the fight was happening at the end of the last session, and it's like all that happened, and it was just like I kept thinking that I was like, is it just me? But it was everybody else too. We were just having a hard time. Everybody kept getting like grappled and knocked to the ground, and just like, I don't know. It was it was horrible.
So the blink dogs, Killian, whenever they actually hit, everybody had to do a strength saving throw. If they failed that, they get knocked prone. So it was even better. They all had pack tactics, and then the Oni actually had sneak attack because it was a rogue style Oni. So whenever it was near a blink dog, and of course they were both in
sneak attack.
I was doing sneak attack every time, so that was fantastic. Not every time, once a turn, obviously. And then it didn't help the group that I was rolling nat 20s like nobody's business. So I want to say I rolled like 12 to 15 nat 20s last night.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Wait, did you not many?
Yeah, did you not? So there was one particular. It was hilarious to be honest on this one. So
you just loaded dice, John.
Dude, no. Well, it was my penis dice that I have. So let's see. What is it? Dick dice is what we called it.
Mm-hmm.
So Joel at one point he had what's silvery barbs. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So he throws down. I rolled a nat 20. I'm like, okay, nat 20 on attack 1. He's like, silvery barbs. Okay, great. It's a 19 natural hitting you for 28. He's like, okay, next turn, nat 20. Somebody else silvery barbs. I'm like, nat 20 on the second one. And then the third attack, I was like, nat 20 on the third attack. I'm like, I showed Jenny. I'm like,
you have
Jenny,
the ability to fudge the rolls as the DM, right, John?
No, dude. Like, the rolls are open. I told
Not
Jenny
when you're silvery barbing's it.
So yeah, exactly. So I called Ginny or said, no, I'm not getting hands off. Look at what I just rolled. And she's like, yeah, nat 20. So I just consistent nat 20s last night. It was disgusting. I'm going to keep using those dice from now on.
Right?
Yeah.
They're punishing.
They don't work when I play with them with my character in Joel's campaign, but they certainly work as a DM. So I will continue using them.
I mean, that's how the dick dice work. They punish who they see fit when they see fit.
Yeah. My wife made a big mistake buying me those. So yeah, that's it on my end. Ryan, how about you?
So I wasn't gonna have. Did I show the donut on the podcast last week? That's kind of D&D related.
No, you got it afterwards.
The donut.
Oh yeah, this is sick.
Look at this.
So I'd gone to SakuraCon
I might be
a little while ago,
much, but it's still cool.
And I got the Dodeca donut. This guy makes these awesome dice cases that are so delicious looking.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's so great. It's magnetic.
I was going to ask if it's magnetic.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
It holds about 2 sets of dice. Let me shout this guy out. I found his card last night. It's Dodeca Donuts.
Hey, your donut doesn't look like that. You should totally make it look like the picture.
But I love it. I got to use it for the first time last night. It's nice just not having like my big old sack of dice. Just kind of having my couple of sets that hopefully don't betray me or they wind up in dice jail.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So no pickups or anything this week, but I have been playing way more Clair Obscure Expedition 33. I'm probably like 20 plus hours into it at this point, I think.
You just started it last week.
Yeah, I know, but I've been playing it, man. I've been trying to play it. Like I didn't get a lot of opportunities to actually play it, but the times that I've sat down for like 3 to 5 hours and played it. And I've done that a few times. So I think I'm almost around 20 hours. I guess I should have checked the save time before I got
also,
here.
You don't have a child, so that probably helps.
No children helps.
Yeah.
But yeah, it continues to be like the best game I've played in recent memory, and it's just like each new kind of twist and turn, and like the cutscenes are just so like, as a AA title that released for, I think it's like $45 or $50.
It's $50.
Oh.
Yeah, it's $50. So it's not like a full price AAA game. Like you forgive some of like, the hair physics and that's all whatever. Like it's some of the best character writing that I've seen in a game where it's just not like, I don't know. it feels so much sometimes like everything's kind of the same now. Like everything's just kind of quippy and just kind of like doesn't really take itself, seriously. But like this has so much room to breathe for like those little moments and just like really emotionally driven storytelling. And I keep being very impressed by it. I really can't wait to see everything that comes from this. Like, I would love to be able to, like, go to a con and see, merch for this game, because I would love to buy some. Like, I'm already thinking about, like, maybe I could cosplay, like, one of the main character guys, because they've got some, there's some, like, funny extra outfits you can get by fighting these mime characters. You can get, like, a mime outfit. So it's just like, some black pants with some suspenders and a white shirt and a baguette on your back. Then like a red beret and these like black round sunglasses. I'm like, I could do that. That'd be kind of cool. People would get that and have fun with it. But I imagine this game is going to be such a cultural like touchstone for these types of RPGs and this level of production quality moving forward. Like, whatever they're gonna do next is gonna be on the same level as like how people are anticipating Hollow Knight Silksong right now. It's gonna be that kind of level. I am so sure of it. So
dude, this game is so popular. I've got guys in our fantasy football chat that are talking about it. So,
hell yeah,
not
dude.
exactly the group I would anticipate, and they're like, "Oh, I gotta play Clair Obscur. It's so
Yeah.
amazing." And then there's one guy that's actively playing it right now, and he just every single week he's just like, "Yeah, you guys got to jump in on this."
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, as somebody who tries a lot of games and gives up on almost all of them and never finishes them, it's so refreshing to be just kind of grabbed by something that you don't get grabbed in that way very often. Like, I definitely had the same feeling with Elden Ring. It was that kind of pull, but it really makes me even go back to just like the game also has a lot of parallels with Final Fantasy X, just being like a JRPG with that like exact same turn order like bar on the side of the screen and everything. So it shares so much DNA with that nostalgically brings me back to there. But like even just the way I was hooked, like I remember being in like 6th grade or whatever and just wanting to show everybody like my save files with the cutscene right after, because it was just like the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. So definitely can't stop recommending that game enough. And that's the thing, like I know, John, you always love to give like kind of updates on where you are in the game. Like I just don't want to say anything about this game because it's too much to kind of like put out there even.
Even Fantasian's a bit too much, hence why I didn't do too much of an update this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much all I got. What about you, Killian? Anything that you've picked up or have been playing recently?
Recent pickups, I just came back from Level Up Expo in Vegas, which is just a gigantic pop culture con, a lot of anime, voice, and video games. And as someone who likes indie animation, specifically as my identity has really become with Has Been Hotel and Helluva Boss. Another really powerful studio that's coming out in animation is, for many people who are familiar, is going to be Glitch, who makes shows like The Amazing Digital Circus, Murder Drones, Gaslight District. And I've only watched Amazing Digital Circus from friends that were like, hey, you like this, you'd probably enjoy this. And it had just hit Netflix, I think, like a month or two ago. And so they had me watch it, and it was free on YouTube, but that was just how they brought it to me. That's like, it's a big deal. It's becoming huge. And it was nice. It was fun. But being at this con, they had their own huge booth. They had such a large presence at this convention. And I'm seeing all these crazy cosplays of the robots and drones from Murder Drones. I've seen some promotional images of Gaslight District because I've only heard of it, and I see it, and it's very like Tim Burton-esque in its animation style. It's very dark and grim.
I gotta look that one up.
It's cool.
I've heard of all the others.
Yes, Gaslight District is, I think, new. I think the pilot just recently dropped. It's just the one pilot right now, I believe. And so now that I'm back and I've recovered, I'm picking up that. So I picked it up by rewatching Digital Circus just so I can get back into it, and then I'm hoping to jump over to Gaslight District because that feels very much like my tone. So looking forward to doing that as someone who really loves indie animation and getting more in that world. And then as far as currently playing, man, I wish I could say I've been playing video games, but I'm just so busy with everything that I do. The last time I touched on a video game was probably halfway through my Baldur's Gate run.
Okay.
And with Lae'zel, I haven't even seen like the last few updates that I've been wanting to jump into with all the subclasses. The update. I didn't. This is really sad. As someone who loves Baldur's Gate so much, I haven't even gotten to the new epilogue ending because I had finished the games before they updated it with that cool after party thing they threw, and I never got to finish my next playthrough to get there because I got slammed with it, and I get yelled at by my friends all the time, like, how have you not had the party? How have you not experienced this yet? It's so great. And I'm like, I just haven't gotten to it. But as far as what I'm currently playing that's not a video game, definitely D&D, always live and breathe that. I have a campaign that's been on hold for a couple months because I work at the Arizona Renaissance Festival that takes up our weekends, so we have to put on hold, but we're trying to get back in. I'm doing a homebrew world. We're a couple years into it. It's very Industrial Revolution, firearms, Bioshock Infinite, Steampunk Revolution kind of stuff like that, with a lot of factions and guilds. I'm bringing in a lot more named characters like Xanathar and Waterdeep. We started this campaign when Resident Evil Village had just come out, and one of my friends was like, hey, can Lady Domitris be my guild leader? And I was like, sounds great. Let's bring in Lady Domitris. It gives me an excuse to bring in some gothic horror. So we have the Countess, who is not in charge of the village, but she's in charge of the colony. And I brought in like the Domains of Dread from
Sorry about the dog.
No, you're okay. The Guide to Ravenloft, where they talked about the Domains of Dread. So implementing a lot of that has been really fun. And then actually today, after we're done here, I'm heading over to a different group's house to play a one-shot. We are it's really fun what you can do with other creatives. I'm playing with a couple cosplay friends of mine and our photographer. And sometimes my photographer and I cut deals where instead of paying him for doing shoots, he's like, hey, can you just run a D&D session for me? And I'm like, that's a great deal. I will take that deal every time.
Fair trade, skill for skill.
Skill for skill. So they don't know anything about this except it's a 6th level mystery that I had ran in my current campaign. And the thing with D&D, what's great is that like if you have a really cool story, you can tell that to as many as you want. So I decided to make this a little one-shot chunk that I've ran, I think, once before after that. So this is my second time after the campaign running it. And I accidentally tipped my hand when I was telling him about scheduling. And I said, yeah, we're getting ready to do this Hydra. Like once we finish this Hydra thing, we can do this. He's like, Hydra? And I was like, yeah, that's the most you're going to get from it. And he's like, ooh, I'm going to get this. Like, I'll make sure to pick one of my magic items. It's like a Hydra slaying weapon or whatever. I was like, all right, you do what you got to do. And they don't know that it's a false Hydra that we're running. So I love the false Hydra. And I'm sure it's so mainstream now, unfortunately. But like, I think I came in just in the nick of time when like it was starting to creep up on the internet, but it wasn't big on TikTok yet or big on YouTube Shorts. And so when I ran it for my campaign group, I had it's a little cruel because you kind of have to gaslight a little bit, but I had incorporated a secret character in our campaign for about a year and a half that they did not realize that was a part of their group. And when we revealed that false Hydra, they were shocked. They were completely just like destroyed mentally. And so it's going to be different. It's different running a one shot because you can't build up the anticipation for a reveal of a false Hydra. For those who don't know what it is, I'm not going to spend all of this time explaining it because it is a very complex and fun creature. Definitely go look into it if you're a DM who wants to really
I'll check
mess with your players. It's a really crazy creature. So that's what we're running today.
I wanted to run a false Hydra in Avernus. We were doing that campaign a while back, so hellscape type of situation. Ended up opting to do the Bagman though instead.
Oh, I want to do a Bagman so bad, and I've planted the seeds for in my campaign. There's a bounty hunter that's pretty much just Cad Bane from Star Wars. I just took Cad Bane, who I love so much, and he's just a really cool bounty hunter in my current campaign. And he'll like kill people and then he'll cut them up and put their bodies in a bag of holding so that he can transport them for the bounty guilds. And I want to plant the seeds further to make a Bagman come out at some point from that bag of holding. That's way down the road. I'm so envious of you, John, to be able to run that because that sounds so fun.
So we did it kind of like it was a Bagman, but we kind of made some homebrew type modifications. What we ended up doing is I had a character that she was constantly getting involved in demonic and things like that in the world. And so I had a Bagman come out, literally sucks her into the bag of holding at night while she's on watch and replaces her and uses all of her persona. The group did not know that was her at one point. And so she at some point crawls out of the bag herself, and now there's two of her. And so both are traveling with the group and they don't know who's who, and are just trying to get down to like, okay, one of these people is not the correct one. I had a roll for it, and she ended up dying. And so they had the
Oh my god.
bagman. The bagman was traveling with them for some time because they killed off the main character. So she played the bagman, obviously, for me. And at some point, the appearance wore off, and they had to fight the bagman.
That's so
And
cool.
but the best part about all of that is when she had died, she had I forget the name of the ring, but there's a ring that allows you to keep the soul of the individual in the ring. So like when you put it on,
Oh,
you could talk to them. I forget the name offhand, but at some point the ring just kind of clatters down and somebody puts it on and she's just like, you motherfuckers killed me, and just starts going on at. And so the entire time, like somebody wore the ring and they were able to communicate with her soul the entire time, while, obviously to continue through the campaign. So she's able to play like her character's soul within a ring and a new character she brought in after the fact. But it
that's
was
awesome.
fun. Yeah, the Bagman was a lot of fun to play with, and something I would definitely incorporate again, but I'd have to definitely sneak it in
Hmm.
in a different manner, I think.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
but yeah, a lot of fun. But continue. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say like that's what I'm currently playing. Is I've been doing a lot more little single one shots now that I'm in this cosplay community, and now that I've kind of uh, been coming out as like this D&D publisher. I have a lot of friends who are like, hey, you do this really cool thing, like I've always wanted to try D&D. I'd love to try it, but like I don't have anyone. So I'm finding myself being a DM for a lot of cosplayers who have never gotten to really try that, but they obviously love characters because we all cosplay and embody our characters. And so it's been really fun to meet different people. And as someone who's been running long form campaigns for many, many years, this is our second one with the same group, and we've been playing collectively together for like maybe 5 or 6 years. It's nice to kind of give a break and be like, all right, let's just tell this story. Let's get this start to finish. And especially for new first timers who are like, wow, that's what D&D is. That's so cool. We got to do a campaign. And I'm like, all right, good luck with that. I'm going to leave. Like, there, I've met all of you together. You guys could figure that out because it's so much to do longer, but I'm glad that you're hooked now.
When you run your campaigns, do you do, theater of the mind, or are you, minis, paper? What are you
I
typically
am
doing?
I am very much a miniature and map maker person. I love theater. Mine is great. I like to think I'm very proficient with improv and setting a scene. I take a lot of that from Call of Cthulhu. Actually, I think Call of Cthulhu is a great mindset to get that kind of atmospheric descriptions. But when it comes to combat, I throw out. I have warlock tiles. I'm not a Dwarven Forge guy. I can't afford Dwarven Forge, so Warlock was where I was at. But I lay that stuff out. I paint miniatures. I actually host paint nights once a month at a local game store here in Arizona at
Cool.
Sanctuary Games, and so I love painting miniatures. I love having them on the table. I will go and buy a specific miniature for an encounter that's going to be in like the next session, just for my players to skip that. And they're like, I know you put so much time into this kill. I'm like, no, it's okay. It's fine. I'll bring it back.
It'll come up again.
Yeah, it'll come up again. It's okay. But I'm very much someone like I like bought like a huge business table from Amazon just so I could lay out long maps and dungeon crawl things. So very much a fan of setting the scene and showing people like the board that's in front of them.
Nice.
Yeah, so I mean that transitions pretty well over into, your publishing. Like you're a man of making things, and you've been doing D&D, and now you're kind of doing that on a more professional level. So you've got this great one-shot adventure you released recently, the Loo Loo Lunacy. Tell us a little bit more about that.
So yeah, 2024, in the summer of 2024, on my birthday, I was fired from my job. I worked at an RV rental company that I did video work for. My main occupation is video production, film production for businesses. And so I was let go. And as I was just getting ready to start in this really fun venture, which was like, you know what, I've been doing D&D for a long time. I've been writing. I work primarily in homebrew. I will take assets from main things as we talked about, like with Xanathar and Waterdeep and stuff. But I really like to write my own stories. Someone who is in film, I love telling those stories. And I think a lot of us as DMs and who write these homebrew things and write these long form stories always like to imagine, like, can I publish something? Can I create something that someone else can take a copy of and tell it themselves? And would they have as much fun in a world that I built? And so I wanted to give that a try, and not having the most confidence in doing something completely homebrew, I knew that I wanted to kind of give myself a handicap, give myself an easier transition into publishing. And so I decided to work with a fandom that I'm very much in love with, which is the Helluverse, which is for the shows of Has Been Hotel on Amazon and Helluva Boss, which is on YouTube. These are created by the company Spindlehorse, which is an animation company, very indie animation company. And yeah, I actually have a copy, but eventually after a very long process, we made our 37-page one-shot book, Loo Loo Lunacy. And the way that I kind of processed that was like, you know what, let's look at this, because the way that the show, for those who are unfamiliar with Helluva Boss, it's very much a D&D party. You have action and violence and blood, and then a lot of relationship drama, a lot of just drama between the party members as they don't like each other, or they're he said like will he won't he thing. And it's very much like the shenanigans of a D&D party at the table. And I said, you know, let's take a really simple episode, and one of the second episode of the first season is Loo Loo Land, which is where they go to a devil carnival. And I said, you know what, D&D players, we love a carnival setting. You know, we've got the Witchlight Carnival for the Fae. Why can't there be a devil carnival? It would make so much sense for fiends to come to the material plane and charge you overpricing for your gold, and like just they look at like what a carnival is. They go, we can do that, and it's like really terrible imitation. It's dangerous. Like if people die, okay, cool, we got them. Mission accomplished kind of thing. And so for me, it worked great because it played to fans of the show who could look at the references and understand it. And it played to fans of D&D who may not know the show, but you as a DM can be like, hey, we're introducing this carnival, and we're all going to spend a day shopping and playing games. And then there's a really cool fight at the end. And so that to me just made the most sense. So after about 8 months of just grinding away, writing, looking at other official WotC books, looking at third-party books that I've picked up that I love, kind of understanding what formats I liked, looking at fonts, looking at, obviously for something like this, looking at copyright and legal, just to make sure that this was something I could do. What can I and can I not do was a very important step for that. Working with a friend of mine who is in legal, but they do a lot of documentation, so they helped me format this document. I was like, I've never written something so complex. How would I best set up my documents to make sure that this is how I want it to look? Having fortunately made networks with artists in the Helluverse community to be like, hey, I would like to, and I met one really great artist, Psycho Riot, who does artwork. They do voice work. They do singing for a lot of the songs for as parodies and homages and covers for the songs from the show, because it also has music for musicals. And I was like, hey, I'd love to work with you on this thing. Like, that sounds like a great idea. I think it's so fun. So they were the sole artists behind all of it. And after 8 months, I wanted to hit a deadline of Level Up Expo in 2024 because, I'm sorry, Let Go in 2023. That's what I should have clarified with that. In Level Up of 2024, all the cast was going to be there. All these, the producers, the cast of the show. And I thought it'd be a really fun idea to print off, I think I printed off 100 or 200 copies. I was like, I'd love to gift them copies because it's, a fan giving back to the community. Whatever copy, I'll give each play tester that I have a copy. That's my form of payment for them, is that they each get a copy of this book. And then whatever I have left, I will sell it. And wow, what a fun journey that would be. And then I went and showed my friend who runs the game store this book, and he was like, this is really cool. Like, this is way more fleshed out than I thought it was going to be. And I was like, oh, thanks. I think it's really well put together. He's like, you should Kickstart it. And I was like, that sounds like a lot of work. It sounds like a lot of risk, especially like just I've already invested all this money into it. I don't even know what would go into that. And he's like, I think there's a market for that. I think you found a really niche thing of blending these two fandoms together, of D&D and Helluverse. And there's nothing like that out there yet. And I said,
and that's a popping off. Like, I mean, you can't walk by a Hot Topic without seeing those characters.
And they just announced at Level Up this last year. So Has Been is the big show that's bought by A24, distributed on Amazon, and Helluva was purely independent, only on YouTube. They just announced at Level Up, I was there for the announcement, that they just announced that Amazon is working directly with Spindlehorse, and Helluva is being brought to Amazon as well for the next 2 seasons of it. And it's like, so both the shows are going to be on Amazon. It's a huge deal for them, just amazing. And you're right, like it's I think I came in like at the right time, and with how many years they have planned, like it's something that I look at as like safety and security for what it is. And we did the Kickstarter, set it at like a $6,000 goal. Just be like, you know what, that sounds good. It's going to cost me about $4,000, and then you cover for shipping and everything. That should be fine. And I ended up making, long story short, just around $17,500 on the Kickstarter, which, almost triple the budget.
Congratulations. That's
Thank
great.
you. It was a very long road. There was definitely some bumps and hiccups with it, but I was scrambling to make like stretch goals because I didn't think it was going to be that big. So I'm like just scrambling to be like, we're going to make blankets, we're going to make T-shirts, we're going to make notebooks, we're going to do all this, and it's was really, really great. And I had a very big pivot point where I said, okay, do I pocket what I got, except that was a really cool high that I just rode, and I did it. I published a book, and it's out there. A couple hundred people have it. I couldn't ask for anything cooler. Or do I try it again? Do I try and recreate Lightning in a Bottle and reinvest
Double
that
down?
Money? Yeah, and so I went, you know what? I've got X amount of money left from the Kickstarter. I think I had like 8,000 to 10,000 left. I was like, let's reinvest. Let's get that back to the artists. Let's get that to play testers. I ended up hiring more artists for the second book, which is about to hit a Kickstarter, which is Wedding Crashers. So that's the second one,
Crashers.
Based off another episode, but instead it's stopping a forced mafia wedding from happening. So it's a dungeon crawl, higher level, and a lot of traps and everything. But it's been a really crazy journey. Like I said, I just got back from Level Up last year, and like the first time, brought a bunch of books of the second book, gave them out. I had a lot of people who knew me from Loo Loo Lunacy who were like, oh my God, like what's going on with the second book? Can you tell us anything? And like, what's some updates on it? I taught a panel called D&D Publishing from Play to Profit, and I had a lot of people there that were super excited. I even was very fortunate this year to do something that I have never gotten to do, and that was I got to meet a lot of the animators and creative team from Spindlehorse, because they all just go there as fans, and I got to meet the head writer, Adam Nealon, and ended up connecting with them and getting them copies. And a lot of the animators are like, that was my favorite part, was getting to meet the creative team. That's so cool. And they're all like super excited. A lot of them, especially because I was bringing Wedding Crashers, a lot of them were like, this was the first episode I ever worked on with the show. Like, this episode means so much to me. This is incredible. They were having me sign their copies, and I was weeping. I was just so overwhelmed. We were at a party. It was an after party on a Saturday, and like that was all Helluva stuff. And I was just so overcome with emotion of joy. And I'm still keeping in touch with a lot of them. And I've talked about like having them, they already know what like I want to do for the third one. And I'm like, oh, I'd love for you guys to play test. And they're like, that'd be awesome. We would love to play test. So I'm like getting ready to like have actual people from the show like help with some of the process of that. And that to me is like coming full circle. So
yeah.
I'm just glad to have taken this challenge and seen it going where it is.
That's so cool for you. I'm so amazed to hear that. That's like, everybody has that wish and that desire to like be able to take the things that influence them and be able to use that to kind of like make something, and for you to be able to give that back to the people who gave it to you originally and see that whole kind of like closed loop of, creator to inspiration is very cool. And that's a very cool story to share.
So you're obviously wearing a shirt from Loo Loo Lunacy. Yes. I got it right before the show. I didn't do anything on that. So can you kind of tell us what that is, and then maybe our listeners, what that ride in particular is all about?
So, yes, I'm wearing a shirt called I Appealed the Lawsuit. The Lawsuit is a ride in Loo Loo Land, and I could try and find its photo. But in the episode, it's a very significant ride because it has this like dead drop, and it makes people just throw up on it. It's not a fun ride for people. And Loo Loo Land, Looloo Land, is a ripoff of Lucifer's Loo Loo World, Lulu. And so basically in Helliverse, hell is broken up, not like the 9 hells in D&D, but it's broken up as the seven sins. So this is in the greed ring. So it's greed, lust, gluttony, wrath, envy, sloth, all of that. So in the greed ring, the head overlord of the greed ring, Mammon, is like, I love Lucifer's Loo Loo World. We're going to make our own, and we're going to spell it differently so we can avoid copyright and lawsuit and everything. And so it's called the Lawsuit because of how many times Lucifer himself has tried to sue Mammon. But this is let's see if I can get it. That's more so the ride there.
Nice.
That's Lulu, the poison apple is their mascot. But there, and I made it a thing. It originally started out as just an artwork piece in the book where, right here, it started off as an artwork piece so that like when you finish a ride, you can go down, get your photo, and you can buy a shirt saying that you rode the Lawsuit. Well, this was never part of the plan, the actual physical t-shirt. But what had happened was that during the Kickstarter, we had made our $6,000 goal in a week. 7 days after we opened it, made 6,000. We were up to 8,000 a couple days later after that, and it was on a really great streak. And I had received a DMCA strike from A24 on Kickstarter, and they said, "Hey, you're using assets that we own. We own Helluva Boss, and that you have to remove those assets if you are wanting to continue on Kickstarter." And it was from A24's legal team. I vetted it through. It was from some subsidiary company that helps with I'm guessing their IPs and everything that they own. And it froze my Kickstarter, and I was stuck for probably a few weeks, and I was so confused because I had vetted it exactly how I wanted. And the way, for those who are a little unfamiliar, I had to learn all this on the fly. But as I said, Spindlehorse Tunes makes Has-Been Hotel and Helluva Boss. When they sold Has-Been Hotel to A24 as like their big flagship show, who then distributes it through Amazon. But they kept on to Helluva Boss. And so that's why I stay strictly to Helluva Boss, because it's still a creative show. There's no copyright that was enforced on Helluva Boss. I don't touch Has-Been because I have learned leading up to that Kickstarter that I had friends who were like, "Hey, I know you're getting ready to do this. Just know that A24 is they're big sticklers for their IP, as any company should be. If you have enforced copyright, like that is your copyright. That is not what I'm here to dispute with that at all." But I knew that they did not have Helluva because it was still an independent show. So I felt confident in doing a larger distribution on a public-facing platform like Kickstarter. So when that happened, I had to go on a huge double-down research, and I looked at the U.S. Copyright Archives online. I looked at the IMDb credits. I looked at their actual show credits, and nowhere can you find A24. And I had to submit a counter DMCA, very, very legal, very official, of like, hey, under threat of perjury and this and that, like I am telling the truth that this is what I have. And I put screenshots in, and they had 14 days to reply. And after 14 days, they just let it go. And, I think they knew. I think it was very much a thing of, I don't think they did anything malicious. I think it was purely someone is in charge of that, or there is an AI system that they have that just hotkeys that kind of stuff. And they know that we're small creators. And if we get a giant scary letter like that we're going to probably be like, "Oh, nope, yep, you're right. We're going to back off." But I had already invested too much money in it.
Fight the man.
Yeah, I felt very David Goliath of like, no, like I put too much time in this thing. I know what my rights are. We're going to try it. If it was from Spindlehorse or any of them, like, sure, that's one other thing. But this was from a company that has no stake or claim in this show. And I did it, and it got back. I got my Kickstarter back. And so as a celebration, I had made the I Appealed the Lawsuit t-shirts come to life as a sort of celebration. I will never print anymore. There were only like 50 printed. I still have a few that I sell at my conventions that I go to, but that is the whole reason why they were there. We even did an ad, not calling out A24, but we did an ad for the shirts where it was Mammon calling out Lucifer. He's like, he's tried to strike again and he couldn't do it. And we showed the shirts and everything. And so it was very, very exciting. And I remember when we were doing the Kickstarter for it, because it was going to cost me like $1,000 to make 50 shirts. And my parents were talking to me about it at one point, and my mom's like, how many people have pledged to your shirts on Kickstarter? I was like, I don't know, like 4. And I think I'm going to give out, like, I'll have a copy. I'm going to give copies to specific people, like my legal friend who was helping me and this and that. And they're like, why don't you just return it and then like use that $1,000 for somewhere else? I'm like, because that's worth the joke. Like, that's 100% worth the victory lap of like, I just took on a company, a big company, a company that I admire greatly as a film person, like A24, like I wholeheartedly love. And obviously it's not the company, that is the legal team doing their job.
Yeah. Nothing personal.
No, nothing personal at all.
Yeah.
Like they poked, I poked back. We both walked away. It was fine. They probably have no idea that I exist anymore. That was probably forgotten the next day. And, but I was like, it's 100% worth to have that. So I can be like, I did this thing. That's really cool. So
yeah,
that's
awesome.
The significance.
Nice. So I guess let's kind of pivot a little bit over towards the Wedding Crashers. Is there anything that you can sneak preview, maybe give us on that campaign? Like, obviously it's a wedding, right? A Force Mafia wedding.
Yes. So yeah, absolutely. So Loo Loo Lunacy was a 4th level, very RP heavy, really great for introductory D&D of just walking around, playing in shops, and then you get a combat. So I wanted players to be able to practice their skill checks. Okay, how do I, you're using a D20 99% of the time. Here's how you add numbers, bonuses, and then eventually you can apply that to your spells and your attack rolls, your saving throws when you get in that fight. Wedding Crashers is more, for those who are more familiar, you could definitely port your characters from it. And it's 6th level, about a 5 to 6 hour adventure, or you can split it up. And again, based off the episode X's and Ooze, which is a whole storyline of one of the main characters, Moxie, is actually part of a crime family that he wanted to break away from. And his father, who is the mafia boss, has invited him back with his friends and tricked them. He had said it was to help make amends and heal the family scar, but really it's their family's running out of money. He wants to forcibly wed his son to another guy who just came into a bunch of money so that they are financially stable again. And he's going to do it whether they want it or not. And so that is this whole episode of you are just wedding guests got this invite to a wedding. Like, this is great. And then you find out, oh, this is all a sham. And this is a horrible, horrible situation that's being put in here. So you get to go through the mansion of Crimson, who's the father to Moxie. You get to go through his mansion. There's puzzle rooms. This is a much more, there's a little bit more innuendo. As I said, it's, I think before, it's a gay wedding. And the show, for those who are unfamiliar, if you haven't caught on by now, it's very vulgar. It's very lewd. It's a lot of innuendo. It is safe on YouTube. But in this episode, I have to put, or for this book, I have to put warnings of adult paraphernalia and stuff because there's a lot of toys because his dad doesn't understand. His dad doesn't accept that he's gay. And he's not even gay. He's bi. But he doesn't know that. It's very much an old traditional.
That's gay enough for me.
Yeah, that's gay enough for me. And so like he tries to like bring him back. You could tell me this is gonna be too much for it, but he brings him in the dining room and he presses a button and it puts like a banner that says "Congrats, gay," and there's like blurred dildos that come out and like to support his son, and he's like, "Dad, no one wants this. This isn't anything what it is." But like we did like the art piece I'll show, like just. Nice. There's like where it goes through. So we have stuff like that. We pepper it through the book. The guy who he's trying to get him to marry transforms his room into like basically a porn studio.
Okay.
To lure him in.
Heart-shaped bed and everything.
Oh yeah. So there's lube everywhere. And this book, like the first one, is also a resource book. I wanted to make sure that was a very important thing for both books, is that, yes, you can play in this adventure, but a lot of people in this fandom, they make their own OCs. They make their own characters. And I think that's a lot of fun for people to make their own characters. And D&D 5th edition especially is so easy to adapt that kind of thing. So I looked at a lot of the creatures in the show and I was like, you know what? There's a lot of imps. I'm going to make my own version of imps that's not traditional D&D. There's the Goetia birds. There's hellhounds. In this episode. So I made sure to do that for the first book. And then this one, I wanted to do more of that. And so there's robots, because there's basically sex bots that get made, and they're made for manual labor. They're made for intimate. Yeah. It's very innuendo, very
manual
labor
show.
Yeah. Very manual labor.
On the man part.
Yeah. There's a lot of sharks and aquatic creatures. So we did a shark creatures in this. We did, there's succubi. There's a really popular character named Vraska who's a succubus. And so doing those and calling them succulents. We've got cherubs, which are little angels. They're little like creatures of adorable animals that are angelic in nature, but they get trapped in hell. So they're all different animal types. And then so I want to do that. And then also what I'm expanding on with book 2 is backgrounds. I had someone who was like, you know what, you should have races that are from specific rings. And I'm like, I think that's a little too restricting. I think D&D players want to have more options. And so I was like, but what if I made it where, okay, succubus come from the lust ring, but what if I want to come from the wrath ring? What kind of story can I tell as a player where my succubus, who traditionally would be something more charismatic, is a little bit rougher around the edges and comes from wrath? What kind of backstory can I build? So now I've introduced backstories for each of the rings of hell, as well as some of the occupations you find in the show. So you have like Doric's agents are like the human conspiracy theorists that it's the secret black ops government that is trying to like root out the demons and fiends of the world. There's IMP, which is the main characters. They're the immediate murder professionals, and so you can be one of their employees. There's Clown College, because clowns are really big in the show. And then because there's heaven, it's like you come from heaven as a heavenly disciple. So that's a really big thing we've added in here as well. And yeah, I'm really excited for it just because it's a bigger book. It's almost twice the size. It's like 59 pages. The artwork just feels more full. I had 3 artists on the team versus 1. We've got a lot more handouts, a lot of fun things for it. I think being combat, I was really excited to do our combat map. So we were talking about like physical. I'm very much someone who like wants to give the DM the opportunity to put that out there. And with this Kickstarter that we're going to be launching in June, like right at the beginning of June, I want to say like June 2nd. We'll be launching that Kickstarter. You can actually go and find Wedding Crashers on Kickstarter right now and sign up for the pre-launch page. I think I have about 70 people right now who are already pre-launched, which I'm very excited for. So if you're one of those people, thank you so much. But one of the stretch goals we have is I want to get a full play mat, 39 by 50 inch play mat. So that way the DM can, instead of like having to build anything, you can literally just roll out the entire board. And it's colorful, it's vivid, it has every room, it's to scale for your miniatures. And I just am really appreciative of people asking me, what do we have going on? What's the next thing for you? Like, what is happening with this? And I think that's just been such a great motivational thing to make me want to do the second book.
Are you going to have like digital assets as well, where you could have digital map packs and STL files and things of that nature for DMs?
Yes. So we are doing a digital PDF, and so all of that will be accessible there. I'm very excited that now that I know how much people do enjoy this, I focused a lot of my stretch goals and things and my add-ons on D&D focused attributes. So we have custom dice being made that are Kickstarter exclusives. Where I have a friend, Maisie Designs here is a Maisie Dice Designs is a local artisan here who does custom resin pours, and we're doing two different types. We're doing like a simple matte color scheme pour, and then we're doing ones that have you're talking about like your dick dice. Yes, there are dicks in this dice. There's shark skulls, and then there's the little flake dicks that like are like little paper dicks, and then we have 3D printed ones. So mine, yeah, so we're doing something like that, and then we have just modeled 15 miniatures of minis and characters from the adventure, and also that are popular characters from the show, and we're selling them as two different packs. We're going to be doing the IMP, which is all the main characters that aren't in the episode, but I know people are going to want those characters. And then we have the Wedding Crashers bundle, which is all of the characters that you see featured, including a lot of the minions. And we're doing both STLs, so you can print them yourselves, or we are doing resin miniatures already printed for your convenience as well.
Oh, nice.
I'm very, very excited. The feedback on that has been incredible, and it's just been so great, like looking at other characters and be like, oh, what else can I add to this? Like, who else is like something? And so now we're adding stretch goals for characters that aren't part of either of them, but I just know people, if those pick up as well as I think they will, just having the opportunity to make even more characters from that.
Yeah. So
are you planning on doing, so just a thought on this, you talked about a third book, right? Are you planning on doing like a hardcover compendium or anything like that down the road?
Yes. So when I first started, as Loo Loo Lunacy was getting really popular, and I was like, you know what, I can keep going with this. I had kind of a 3-book goal. I didn't know what the third book was for a while, but I do know what the third book is now. And what I want to do is I'll have that for Kickstarter 2026. Try and do the same timeline. I want to get the book made and printed by Level Up of next year so I can take it, because that pretty much is Helluva's Con at this point. So it's a great spot for people who are familiar with my work can go and meet with me. I give out early copies. I sell them out of my backpack. I raffle off free copies at my panel. It's how I can get them to the cast. It's how I can build awareness and networking there, and then do the Kickstarter. And then after that, I would like to do a hardcover volume of all of the books put together, tweaking, make sure everything is cohesive with itself, adding some extra additional mini adventures that maybe are only 3 or 4 pages long that aren't worth doing a physical book for, but they're worth doing a bit digital PDF. But this would be the way to get them physically printed in there. So I would like to do maybe in like 2027, if I'm still kicking and this is still going, I'd really love to do a hardcover that's going to be probably close to 200 pages. And adding on top of that, because again, I'm always a big fan of collectible. I've worked with I think it's Geekify is the company who they do like these really great canvas cloth drop maps, and they also do custom leather bound covers for books. And I'd love to create like a few copies that are like these really intricate books that are collectibles for it. So
cool.
That is the goal. I would love to get to a hardcover point.
Nice.
So, I mean, you've got like such a great opportunity here where you've taken, it's exploding recently, but like a more niche kind of show, and taken that to, a different kind of realm, merging it with like role playing and D&D, and obviously found like a lot of success with it. So, I mean, you've got like a ton of passion, and I think that that's really the cornerstone for kind of making anything successful is being able to like have that passion to drive the vision for where you're going to go and the inspiration for what's going to come next. But like when you're looking at like building this world and saying, okay, I'm going to transition this from something that I watch and interact with, you know, through one medium and then turn it into more of an interactive thing for other people to engage with, like what's kind of like the critical starting point for making that conversion and getting people to believe in the vision that you can see?
I think whether it's for publishing for a larger audience or even the people at your own table, I think understanding who you're creating a story for is very important. Knowing the tone, knowing the kind of comedy or sincerity that your players are drawn to is so important. Like my players that I personally play with, you know, we're very much into. They know I'm a don't pull punches DM. They love the grit storytelling. I do a lot of political intrigue and then I'll throw in like some comedy to help alleviate it. And they know I like to really put pressure on them. And when it comes to the Helluverse stuff, I know that it's a very fun graphic show that's got a lot of violence, got a lot of chaos, it's got a lot of lewd comedy. And making sure that making sure these stories are very lighthearted, that they're very entertaining, that you get those kind of innuendos, you get those inside jokes for the fans is really, really great. And I think what makes it so easy to merge that with D&D is that D&D is already like that. God almighty. Then every time you make up as a DM and you have to come up with an NPC name on the spot and your players make fun of that name immediately, it's that kind of energy. And so I am very blessed that Helluva Boss and them kind of already have that Neanderthal player mentality of like, hey, we're all gonna joke and jock about this at the table, and it really helps feed into it. I have so many friends who, when I do my play tests, I think I probably have 16 to 20 people. I try and do 3 to 5 play test groups minimum, especially with something like a dungeon crawl. Got to have more because there's so much more to flesh out. I have so many people come up who are either like, I don't know what the Helluva Boss show is, or I don't know what D&D is. I've never played. And those are my favorite people to play with because they get exposed to the other side of the thing that they're coming in for. And they walk out going, wow, that was a lot of fun. And as long as you understand your audience, whatever it is, whatever tone you're going for, I think that's going to help you in the long run because your audience is going to connect with that very well. But I think when it comes to something publishing, what I really had to learn too is, yes, you're writing a manual, a guide for people to follow. You don't get too specific. I think we as writers, we want it to be incredibly perfect. This isn't a book. We're not writing lore or canon where every word on the page can't be changed because that is a novel. D&D is so versatile, especially 5th edition, where you can they're very open of like, it's a guidebook, take it with what you want. The amount of times that I've ran the same adventure and it has ended in different ways, or they have done different things with items, is great. And I think we as writers get really, we try and get in our own heads like, I have to make sure that this is as detailed for them as possible. So no, just give the DM, trust your DMs that they're going to be able to read this and they're going to want to interpret it. Because we as DMs, yes, we're readers, we're writers, but we're also improv people. We have to work on the fly. And I think making sure that you give enough to help them on their way without trying to vicariously tell that story for them at their table that you're never going to be at, I think is also a very critical balance when it comes to writing a story.
Yeah, I definitely as a DM appreciate that too. I mean, some of the way I approach it whenever I get that material in hand is bullet points, right? Like what's the core things that I need to outline that are in the book, as well as my thoughts on, how this needs to be perceived. And then on top, kind of leave it to the players too, right? Like you kind of have to leave that up to imagination for the players to, in a sense, develop that scene on their own. And then, like you said, improv it, right? Like you should be able to on the fly say, oh yeah, that ceiling is 40 feet high, right? Or 20 feet or 10 feet high, whatever it may be, based on what is occurring in that exact moment, right? Mm-hmm. So you do have to improv, and sometimes a little too much information overwhelms a DM. And like you said, it has to be perfect. It has to be just like this, and then leaves a little room. And that's where you kind of end up in railroading situations as well.
Yes, absolutely. I think, with this second book, first book, it was easy. Players are here at Loo Loo Land, and I even put in options in the first book that were like, maybe you're here for a work trip. Maybe you're here because you're supposed to assassinate the bad guy. Maybe you're here to acquire a specific item. And that was really fun. And then in the second book, because it was so specific in the episode of why they're here, my entire primer was that you guys are employees of IMP and you guys were here. Basically, the synopsis of the episode, you guys are here to help make amends, and then you find out it's a trick and this and that, blah, blah, blah. Did all of that. That's how I operated it forever. And about 2 weeks before printing, I was having some people do some grammar checks for me, and they were reading it and like, hey, why do I have to be with IMP? Why do I have to be a part of this group that's going here for this? What if I didn't want to do that? And I had to sit there and go, yeah, you know what? Because at the end of the day, there's going to be people who don't know what the hell that is. And now it's like, okay, you're part of this company. What is that company? Now the DM is going to be asked questions, and that DM may not know what that is. And so I changed it to your wedding guests. You know, you were invited here. There's even a wedding invitation in the handout. So it made sense of like, hey, your DM hands this out to you. You guys were invited by this wedding. The DM can come up with how you know them through player backstory, because every player someone might have a connection to something like that. And then it was that you learn from Moxie's actual wife, like, who comes up in the primer, and it is like, this thing is fucked, like, this is wrong, like, I need help. And now it's like, okay, here's a tangible thing that players have. An NPC is asking them for help and is giving them that quick synopsis of like, this is not what it's supposed to be, and I need you to help me fix it. And that made so much more sense. It gave so much more brevity to the situation and allowed the DM to be able to have more control of that situation. And I realized I put too much into it. I put too much control into it.
Well, and sometimes as a DM too, you have to, all of those differing backstories kind of come to a conclusion as to why would you think those characters, even through 10 different backstories, like why would they be in that scene? So like with when we did Strixhaven, I threw our group into a Breakfast Club scene at the beginning. You all came from different backgrounds, but you're all in detention here at the university because you all fucked up in some way.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then that got them together, and then that's why they became a group. So I think that as DMs, we also have to, kind of reach for certain things, right, to try and create that scene and get those people together at one time.
Yeah, I think so.
Cool. So tail end of the interview, or really discussion here, not so much an interview but more discussion on what you're doing, building stories in a world. Like, we know that's a pretty difficult aspect of DMing. I mean, you've talked about these backgrounds of these various characters in this world that you're working on right now, with the different rings of hell and such. So what is your approach when it comes to taking on that task of creating backgrounds and stories?
I think, again, coming to a publishing aspect of it, telling myself and reminding myself that I am not a WotC employee. I am not a big person. I'm not a big time person. I am a fan of the Helluva show. I am a fan of D&D and a big time player, a DM of D&D, and having to remind myself that what I am doing is just contributing back, and people can take it or people can leave it. I'm not trying to build a big reputation of, at the time. I mean, obviously now I have a company, an official business, and now I'm starting to do that. But understanding that, like, we're an indie fandom, and we are all just community members who love contributing back. And for me, it started with, I want to get back to this community. I'm not an artist. So many people draw fan art. So many people can like write these RP or in character universe things. And this was my unique skill I thought I had to do. And I think understanding that it doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be something that fans of D&D can play it and be like, yeah, you know what, that was a really fun 4 hours. Or fans of the show can be like, man, that was so cool that we got to meet this character that is from the show. Or I found this item that this other character interacted with in the show. And I think that stuff is so much fun. When I played Loo Loo Lunacy, no matter where it was, whether it was playtest or at cons when I was vending it, there's an item called Thing, who is a really popular plushie who is being sold at a shooting gallery game. And it's a rigged game. You can't win it. You have to basically bully the guy to give it to you. But he has this whole line in the show, and I make sure that the line is in the book so that the DM can read it that way. And when I would do it to players, you knew who was fans of the show, because it would be like, hello, step right up and win a thing. And like immediately people were like, oh, I've been wanting to find this thing all game. I'm so excited. And I'm like, that to me was like core memory unlocked of like, that's just so great that person had that. So for me, it is like you talked about like the passion of it. I think you said that, Ryan. Like, you have to make sure that you're passionate about it, because you are just making something fun. There's a lot of scrutiny, not just from fandom or from outside sources, but from yourself, because you want it to be perfect. You want it to be a masterpiece. But at the end of the day, there's spelling errors. There's, that I have to fix. The first book had spelling errors, and I had to adjust those for the Kickstarter, and then they were fixing the Kickstarter. and I'm sure there's still more that even me and 5 people haven't looked at. There's following the rules of the show. I'm not setting up entirely a homebrew world. This is set in an established lore of the Helluverse, and I have to try and follow those rules. There's rules for like what can kill someone permanently and what can't kill someone permanently. What can you regenerate back? And I tried to tackle that in the second book, where I said, hey, if you want to follow kind of the rules of the world, here's some optional rules that you can incorporate into your game of like how to rejuvenate yourself, and you're going to take exhaustion after you come back instead of like being permanently dead. But if you get hit with radiant weapons, then that is what can cause you to permanent die. And I got called out by a few of the people who were checking my grammar and spelling because they were big fans of the show. Some of them work with the show or very much closer than me. And they're like, hey, isn't it actually like this rule set? I'm like, oh my God, you're absolutely right. Yep. Got to get that. And so you want to be respectful, but you also are hoping that you're going to get respect back because people understand you're just one person and a small team. Like I said, it's me as one writer with a couple animator or a couple artists, a couple editors, just trying to make something. And I think people see that and just have fun with it. Keep going, but don't stop doing it because it is a long process. I think people, like I said, it took me 8 months to get it to look like this. It started as a notepad document. I literally just opened up Notepad last night to jot down book 3 stuff and look at the third and look at my episode. And I was jotting everything. And people are like, you use Notepad? Why? Why don't you use like Word? I'm like, because if I use Word, I'm going to want to make it look really pretty. I'm going to want to bold things, italicize things, format things. And Notepad, I can just throw it on there.
Just get it done.
I just get it done. Like there's no excess stuff that I have to do with it. And so I think my approach to, I know I babble a lot and I try and rein it back in, but my approach to that is to have fun with it. Understand that you are not a professional. You are a professional in your own way, but you are not you're not a corporation. You're not a big conglomerate. You are here to have fun and make something and to not give up because your network of support is much smaller than a company. You don't have financial security. You don't have this. It's a lot of nights. It's a lot of, I get home from work and then I work on this for 2 more hours and I get burnt out. And then my weekends are working on this, or now it's planning play tests, and it's a lot. And it's a balance between me doing this for my job or for my, like my new side job and playing my D&D games for fun. It's hard. So, but I think you'll see the results, and you'll see that there's a really nice balance to it of being someone who just loves D&D and is giving back to a community, and people recognize that.
Yeah, that's so awesome.
Wise words.
It's great to have you on here. You're obviously, very humble about this whole thing, and like the amount of work and energy that you're putting in is just like it's contagious. I can feel it. So congratulations on all your success so far, and I hope nothing but the best for this future Kickstarter and potential 3rd book, and bind all that up into a season 1 hardcover and bring season 2 to us too.
Oh, I would love to. Thank you guys so much for having me on here. This has been so great, and you guys just make me feel so welcome here. So thank you for letting me have a spot just to talk about it, even for a little bit.
Yeah,
of course. Definitely appreciate having you on. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, with that said, why don't you one last time for us plug where we can find your materials, your social, all of that.
Awesome. I am AZ Stolas on Instagram and TikTok, Arizona Stolas on X and Blue Sky. You can find Loo Loo Lunacy available on Grimoire Goods Shop on Etsy, and then Wedding Crashers will be on Kickstarter in the first weekend of June. I think June 2nd is the goal that we're setting for, and you can find that on Kickstarter right now and sign up for the notifications of when that goes live.
Awesome. Well, until next time, this has been episode 340 of the Game Deflators podcast. We've been joined by Killian, AZ Stolas. My name's John.
I'm Ryan.
And thanks for listening.